Hi, Nathan. So I just realized something here. This is the cell phone right here. I didn't see this when I was looking at it on my phone. So in the cell phone is the information you need for your text message. It says you have 44 text messages in your inbox, and it tells us here that your inbox is 88% full. You're going to set up a proportion, sweetheart. Or you don't have to set up the proportion. You could do the percent equation as well. But you know how much I like proportions. If you don't, you're getting ready to find out. And then it says, how many messages can your cell phone hold? So, what that's basically saying is if I have 44 text messages in my inbox and I am sitting at 88%, how many messages can I hold in all? That's basically what it's asking. So this is the part to hold, right? So let's go ahead and write this out. So I have, let me put this here. I have 44, and that is the part, right? Or the is, if it was written out, we're doing the proportion. There is another way to do this, but I prefer this method because it always gives my kids a solid way to set it up. So here's the 88%. You just plug in what you know, sweetheart. So I know that when my text messages are at 44, I am at 88% of the amount of text messages I can hold. What is the amount I can hold altogether, though? So again, we're going to multiply here 44 times 100, and that is going to be 4,400. We know that because it's 44 times 1, and then there are two zeros. So boop, boop, right? And then I'm going to divide that 4,400 by 88 because when I set up my proportion this way, what it's telling me is I'm going to do the diagonal multiplication, right? Which is here. Whichever numerator and denominator I have diagonally in my proportion, if I set it up correctly, I'm going to multiply those and then I'm going to divide by the percent. This is one way to do it. All right. Give me just a second here. So I'm sitting here with 4,400 divided by 88, and I had to pull up my calculator, my decimals. So I got 4,400 divided by 88. All right. And when I do that, I get a total of 50. Now let's go back and take a look. If you were to tell me, hey, Doc, I can hold 50 total text messages in my inbox. When I have 50 messages in my inbox, I am at 100%. Right? So if I only have 44, what percentage am I at? Does that make sense? And think about it this way. Um, 88% is really close to 100, just like 44 is really close to 50. And if I needed to make sure I was right, I could think about how are 50 and 100 are related. So 50 times 2 is 100, right? And then 44 times 2 is 88. This is why I said there are multiple ways to do this. Here's what you could have done. You could have thought to yourself, well, what I know is you could have set up the proportion the same way, right? I'm sorry. Let me get rid of this stray mark I just put up here because we don't need that. You set that up the same way. This is the part I don't know the whole. I'm going to call the whole amount X, but I do know 88% and I do know 100. So I think about how are 44 and 88 related? Well, I do know that 44 times 4 times 2 is 4. I mean 8, and 4 times 2 is 8. So that would be times 2. Okay. And so if I multiply my top or my numerators by 2, then I have to multiply, coming from left to right, my denominator by 2. What do I know about 100? Well, if I reverse this, I could say 88 divided by 44 is 2, and 100 divided by 2 is 50. Okay. So then my whole amount of text messages is 50. I hope that makes sense. Take a moment and sit with it. All right. So we just finished the problem with the text messages. Now let's look at number 15 because 14, I need more information. I need to be able to see that picture on the bottom left. I'm thinking there is something written here that helps solve this problem. Otherwise, I don't know what your two loan options were. Okay. So let's look at number 15. Number 15 says you borrow $200. The simple interest rate is 12%. You pay off the loan after 2 years. Okay. I'm not going to do this problem. I'm going to give you a different problem. And then I want you to do this problem based on what I'm getting ready to tell you. This is the simple interest rate. What do you call it? This is the simple interest rate formula right here. And that simple interest rate formula says if you want to find the interest, right, what you need to do is multiply the principal times the rate times the time. But remember, when you multiply the rate, you're going to convert it to a decimal. And you know how to do that. All right. So here is my problem similar to your problem. And let me go back and look at it again. They're telling you the amount you borrowed, how much the rate was, and that you paid it off in 2 years. So what they want to know is how much interest did you pay? So let me build you a problem on that. And this is a very simple way to do it, but I want you to understand if you take a moment and you set up the formula, you can find out any part of the formula. What you need to remember is that these three here, the principal, the rate, and the time, you need to multiply them by each other in order to get the interest. If you understand that, if she's asking you for the interest, or if she's asking you for the principal amount that was paid, or if she's asking you for the rate or the time, you can figure out any one. All you need to do is plug in the values for the variables. All right. So in this case, this question is asking you to find the interest rate. Okay. So what I know is my principal amount, I took out a loan. Sorry. I took out a loan for, let's say I took out a loan for $150. Okay. And I have 2 years to pay that loan back. Um, and at a rate of 7%. So the first thing I need to do is, and I want to know how much interest am I going to pay? Okay, what is the interest that attached to this loan? All right, so the first thing I'm going to do now that I have that information is I am going to plug my values in where they belong. All right. So the principal is what? What is the principal amount? That's the amount of the loan. Like, how much do you need? I need 150. So I'm going to put that in here first. So I got 150. And then I'm going to multiply that by the rate and the time. So it doesn't really matter if I put the 2 years next or if I put the 7% next, but I'm going to multiply that by the 7%. That's my rate, right? And that is, if I take 7%, I have to move the decimal two spaces. So that's going to be 0.07. And then I need to multiply that by 2 years. Now be careful because sometimes they'll change up the rate. I'm sorry, the time. But normally when we take out loans, it's going to be over a period of years, depending on what kind of loan it is. So I'm going to multiply this last part by 2. So I have 150 times 0.07 times 2. Let's get it. 150 times 0.07 and you can see that it's already calculated it, and then I'm going to multiply that by 2, and then I get what? I get $21. So, or I should say I get 21, right? So when I multiply all these, I got 21. So my interest, the amount of interest that I'm going to pay is $21. All right? Because I'm talking about money here. All right? Now, what would happen if they gave me the interest, right? They told me your interest is $21. Your interest rate, the amount of interest you're going to pay is, let's say they told me it was going to be $20, and they said you have to pay at a 10% rate over 5 whatever. It could be 5 years, 5 months, whatever. So I'm going to say 5 years. Okay. So I plug all my variables in. Now I have the interest rate, which is 20. And I know I don't have the principal amount. So the question in this problem is going to be, how much was the loan, or how much money did you want to take out? Well, I don't know. So I got to find that out. So I'm going to plug in the P as my variable because I don't know how much. And the rate is 10%. So how do I make that a decimal? I move the decimal 2 spaces to the left. So it's 0.10. And then my time is 5. So I multiply it by 5. So now what I need to do, what do you think I need to do here? I need to multiply the values there. Now I'm showing you this now because it's going to become something that you have to do later. 0.10 times what? Times 5. 0.10 times 5. What does that equal? It equals 0.5. That makes sense. So this becomes 0.50 equals 20. And I have to, or P times 0.50 equals 20. So now because P is being multiplied by 0.50, I am going to have to, let me move this out the way because I already worked with that. I am going to have to divide both sides by 0.50 or 0.5, right? And when I divide both sides by 0.5, I get 20 on the left side divided by 0.5. And I can add the 0 if it makes me feel better. And what do I get? I get 40. So 40 equals the principal amount. When I divide this side, I'm just left with P. When I divide the right side, right? I'm just left with P. And so what is the principal amount of money that I went in borrowing? I borrowed $40. Okay. And I had to pay it back over 5 years. So my interest rate was $20 that I wound up paying. This is how much I started out with. And if I add those up together, the 20 plus the 40, that's the total amount of the loan. Okay. So for that problem, this one right here, number 15, you know the principal amount is $200. So that's your P. The simple interest rate is 12%. So what do you do with that though? Do I write it? Do I multiply 200 by 12%? I do not. I multiply by 0.12. And then I know how long I'm going to have it. I'm going to have it for 2 years. So now once I get that product, I'm going to multiply that by 2. Does that make sense? And that tells me the amount that I'm paying for the loan, the interest. And when I answer that, there must be a dollar sign next to it. Okay. Because that is the interest amount. It's a dollar amount. So whatever your answer is, make sure you throw that dollar sign. Cool. Now I'm going to check and see if you sent me that other picture that I needed. All right. So whenever you get the picture to tell me, or if he could just tell you what is on this, looks like a post-it or something. Similar to the last problem, there was a little note written on the side. Actually, it wasn't a note. It was a picture of a phone that had the information I needed to solve the problem. I'm assuming that's what's going on with number 14 because I can't, it says which option saves more money if you pay the loan in 2 years. I don't know what the two options are. So I can't. Uh-oh, it looked like my video stopped. But since I don't know what the two options are, I can't really tell you which one is going to be best. All right. But yeah, that's it. Let me know when you get it and then I'll take a look at it.